This is the PR Podcast, a show about how public relations helps you tell your story to the world. We talk with great PR practitioners who have the skills, creativity, and just plain savvy to get their clients noticed. Now here's your host, Jody Fisher.
Hey everyone, and welcome to the PR Podcast. I'm Jody Fisher. Thanks for joining us. Well, make sure you join my Instagram Live every Thursday at 2 p.m. Eastern, PR Talk from the PR Garage. This is me trying to be hip. This is me trying to do Instagram Live to the 2.5 people who want to listen. No, I'm just kidding. But we do 15 minutes every Thursday at 2 p.m. Eastern. We talk about what's going on in PR. We play a little game called Why Is That News, where I take a story and I deconstruct it and I try to look at the pieces and figure out and explain and give my version of, okay, why do I think this made the newspaper? Or why do I think this ended up on broadcast TV? And love to hear your takes on Why Is This News. If you want to send us something and explain to us why you think it's news. The whole idea is an extension of the podcast, right? It's talking about how news gets made. It's talking about how we can do news better. As PR people, how can we do a better job of serving our clients and also helping the reporters that we want to report on our clients? So tune in to that Instagram Live every Thursday, 2 p.m. Eastern, and that's at my on my personal Instagram channel. That's at Jody Fisher. Check that out. We'd love to have you join us. Now on with our show today, we have a terrific guest. Michael Mejer is founder of Green Lane Communication, focusing exclusively on telling the story of cannabis brands by placing a positive spotlight on the change makers that are driving the industry and the community forward. With a strategic approach that empowers leaders to not only enhance brand recognition, but also foster trust and establish unwavering credibility, Michael is breaking new ground in a new industry. Michael, welcome to the PR Podcast.
Jody, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
I appreciate it. And full disclosure, we've rescheduled this like 3 times. So thank you so much for being here. Because I do think it's an important topic to talk about. It's a growing industry, obviously. And I think it's also filled with a lot of misperception when people hear that word cannabis. Let's talk about what the cannabis industry is all about first.
Yeah, so I don't know if we have enough time to dive into all of that today, but pretty much, you're looking at a plant that has been carrying a lot of negative stigma for decades, really. And so now what's happened as different states and markets have come online with adult use and medical programs, we're starting to unlock new levels of research, especially as it pertains to utilizing cannabis in medicinal ways, helping treat different ailments. And folks are just unlocking new levels of health and wellness through the use of this plant versus traditional pharmaceutical routes that maybe have come with laundry lists sizes of side effects. And so people are just tapping into new ways to kind of circumnavigate old school traditional pharma and looking into natural remedies to help just increase the quality of their life.
And so there's been an explosion of cannabis-based businesses that have popped up. And I know I'll just speak for the state of New York, which is where I live. Cannabis has become legalized. Businesses are being encouraged, and there's stores that are popping up all over the place with the help of attorneys that help them navigate the process of setting up a business, because there's an awful lot of hoops that need to be jumped through. But talking about education around the issue of cannabis and the product of cannabis, that's where the ball goes into your court. How do you help to tell the story of either a cannabis business or another one of your cannabis clients? What is the process that you go through?
Yeah, so I think number one, it comes down to education, right? I think reporters, journalists, editors, podcast hosts like yourself, show producers, they all want to get down to the information. They want to see data. They want to unlock different reports and studies and things like that. So number one, what I'll always do is I'll always work very closely with founders, CEOs, members of the C-suite team to really just extract what makes their backgrounds unique. Because what's cool about the cannabis industry is that so many different people are coming from different areas. Some people come from pharmaceuticals, some people come from finance, real estate, you name it. There's going to be somebody in the space that has a very interesting background. So being able to identify what makes their vantage points and their areas of expertise unique, and how they can lend that expertise to reporters, journalists that are covering different facets of this industry, whether it be consumer focused, B2B focused. If you're looking at automation and industrial automation in this industry and how we're able to improve the value chain, the supply chain, or if you want to talk more at a consumer level and get a better understanding of different products that you maybe ingest through vaporizers or gummies or beverages. There's just so many different things to talk about and things to educate the general public on when it comes to cannabis. And so what I always say is I always love starting with understanding the founders, the faces of the companies, the leadership team, and their specific expertise and how they're contributing to the industry, to the community, and then how we can help, like you mentioned earlier, the reporters that are reporting on specific facets of this industry, tell the stories with the right information at the right time to the people that want to get to the bottom of it.
Yeah, there's got to be, I'll use the word hesitation, right? But there's got to be, and along the lines of misinformation, people just not understanding, right? Because most people probably hear cannabis and they think of Cheech and Chong or something else. I mean, I'm dating myself, Gen X there, right? But you know what I mean? Like, so how are you as a PR person taking them by the hand, whether it's a reporter or maybe it's a local government official, or someone else who needs to be brought into the information pipeline to educate them on what this actually is and how it's beneficial and how it can benefit the community?
Yeah, great question. So a lot of it comes down to, and I'm sure you can relate to this being a PR professional yourself, bridging that gap, right? Bridging the gap between your client that you're representing and their expertise, and making that expertise and information digestible and palatable for somebody that may be new to the plant, new to the industry, new to the laws and policies and regulations around it. So I think it's really important for a PR person or anybody that's doing any form of media relations or public relations in cannabis specifically to be well-rounded in all different facets of it. So if you're focusing on, let's say, the B2B side or the B2C side, it's still going to be important for you to have an understanding of the policies, the regulations, new markets that are coming online, why certain cannabis programs that are rolling out in certain states may be failing or may be thriving. It just helps bridge that gap between the experts in the industry and the people that need a more basic fundamental understanding of it. So you can then introduce those higher level, more intricate concepts to the table and make sure that nothing gets lost in translation, which is not easy to do. And it takes a little bit of time and it takes education. And I think the conversations that the media has been having today versus the conversations that the media has been having, let's say 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago, they're definitely looking a lot different. And there's a little bit more of an open mind and acceptance to understanding, okay, maybe there is an alternative perspective here. Maybe there is some new data that we haven't considered. Let's tap into it. Let's have these conversations. Whereas before it was a lot more closed off. No, we're not going to be covering the devil's lettuce. We don't want anything to do with that. Our higher ups are going to give us, we're going to catch some flack if we report on this. Whereas today, I think it's a lot more acceptable to have conversations around it and dig a little bit further into the truth.
Yeah, let's go back there and talk about how you got started in doing cannabis PR, why you identified it as perhaps a growth area or something that you could really sink your teeth into, and walk us through the changes that you've seen over that time in the perception around the industry or people's acceptance of it.
Yeah, so I mean, taking it back to about 2011, 2012, that's when I first got into publicity and public relations. And at the time, I was working in the book publishing world. So I was helping a lot of founders, faces, CEOs of companies launch their books. And then during that book launch process, I was working at a boutique firm in New York where we were actually helping facilitate a lot of the interviews, the features, the mentions on podcasts, the publications such as the Forbes, the Incs, the Fast Companies, the Entrepreneur magazines of the world, getting them to cover the experts that were offering these self-help, business-focused books. And that was great. I loved it. That's a big passion of mine. I kind of consider myself a self-help junkie. So being able to work in that world was a lot of fun for me. I got to learn from a lot of really, really brilliant minds. But about 2 or 3 years into that, I just decided to walk into a hemp wellness store in New York. There wasn't an adult use program at the time. So I walked into a hemp wellness store and I just started up a conversation with the owner and said, hey, I'm super interested in this. Would love to know how this works. I know there's an endocannabinoid system and I know there's CBD, there's THC and all these different products, but how does this actually interact physiologically with the human body? And so she's breaking it all down for me. And about 5 minutes into that visit, an older gentleman comes in and he was suffering from really debilitating tremors so bad that his wife had to basically open the door for him. She had to do all the talking. And she just said, look, we've tried everything under the sun. We've tried every single pharmaceutical solution, but nothing works. And anything that gives us a sliver of hope comes with a massive list of side effects that just aren't even worth the positive benefits that come from it. So do you have anything here that may be beneficial? And so the owner just said, look, I'm not going to make you any promises or guarantees, but if you want to take a seat on the couch, we can try out a tincture and just see what happens. And so the gentleman tried it. He took it under his tongue. I want to say it was maybe 120 seconds that went by. And all of a sudden I looked to my left and boom, his tremors start subsiding significantly to the point where he now is seeming to regain control of his body. He's able to talk again. And the best part of this, and this always gives me chills, but the best part was when the first words came out of his mouth and he looks at the owner and he goes, I need the biggest bottle of whatever shit it was you just gave me. And at that point, I said to myself, hold on, you mean to tell me that it was like the flip of a switch that not only did this gentleman get his life back, but you mean to tell me his wife got her husband back, probably had kids. So his kids got their father back, maybe even had grandkids. So maybe their grandkids got their grandfather back. And so at that point, I said to myself, you know what? I love PR. I love earned media. I love connecting the dots. I get a genuine rush every time I get a client place. I want to fly around the country and tap into this industry and this community and see what it's all about. And so long story short, after doing my due diligence, talking to a lot of folks in the industry, I realized that marketing and advertising is not as simple as it is in traditional spaces because of all the regulations and roadblocks that you face with cannabis advertising and marketing. And so what I quickly came to realize was that earning media coverage to showcase your expertise, tell your brand's narrative, tell a story, report on different topics and developments that were happening in the marketplace was a great way to sort of circumnavigate that and really amplify brand awareness, build trust, and establish credibility. And so I remember I was at a conference out in Las Vegas, and on the flight back home, I took out a legal pad. I just started jotting down notes. And by the time I landed in New York, I had a whole business plan and I had it all figured out. And the next day I just got to work and created Green Lane Communication. And here we are several years later.
That's an incredible story. And I love hearing it, the way you tell it. The inspiration that came just from that one interaction. And that, you and I both know, that's the root of every great pitchable PR story out there, right? Is the tangible evidence of something that's happening, that we're not sitting there saying, hey, this is a great thing, you should write a story about it, but like pointing at that guy saying, look, don't take my word for it, talk to him.
Exactly.
That's amazing.
And I think yeah, and I think that just like you said, Jody, I think that translates into the work that we do. And whether it's in the cannabis industry or outside of cannabis, having receipts to back up your story that you're pitching to a reporter, an editor, or a journalist. And if you're making a claim like, hey, you need to cover this story or you need to get in touch with this person, well, okay, they receive 50 plus emails every single day with people claiming that they need to talk to this person. So what is the receipt that you can use to back up and really prove that, okay, this person fits my beat, this person fits my matches my topics that I'm covering, and maybe they have a certain background or a set of skills or expertise or vantage point or experiences that really aligns with what that person in the media is covering or has traditionally been known to cover and lean towards and gravitate towards. So it's a lot of putting together the right pieces so that the bigger picture puzzle comes together. I think what you just said aligns perfectly with all of that.
And there's got to be multiple angles from which cannabis can get covered, right? There's the medicinal, there's the healthcare angle, there's the finance angle, there's the government angle, right? There's lots of different types of reporters writing on the same topic. Tell me how you're threading that needle, how you're pushing stories out and identifying different reporters, different verticals to tell that story in.
Yeah, so it comes down to understanding which outlets are covering what. I think that's a great place to start. And then from there, getting an understanding of, okay, who are the reporters, who are the journalists, who are the editors that work at each of these outlets? And then reverse engineering and understanding, okay, this group of individuals, they cover the publicly traded markets. This group of individuals over here, they cover consumer facing news. This group over here, they focus on technology. This group over here focuses on B2B industry developments. And then from there, being able to have those conversations with clients and folks that you represent and understand, okay, who are the decision makers that you're trying to get in front of? Who are the stakeholders? Who is it that you're trying to communicate your message to? And what is that message? Is it going to resonate more with consumers? Is it going to resonate more with public officials? Investors. And so being able to understand everybody and their goals and objectives, both on the media side and on the client side, I think that's where the secret to success in securing media coverage comes from. It's being able to actively listen, understand everybody's objectives, and then try to bring them together. Can't tell you how many times people have, when I've been trying to explain what it is that a PR person does, they just look at me and go, "So you're a matchmaker?" And I'm pretty sure you may have heard something like that yourself in the past. So it is a little bit like matchmaking.
It totally is. No, I totally agree. And I don't shy away from that at all. I keep humming Fiddler on the Roof in my head, but that's a different story. But seeing how far cannabis has come, the industry and the acceptance of it, the general acceptance of it, there are still probably hurdles that get thrown in your way all the time. What are some of the closest or the newest hurdles that you're seeing you need to overcome in telling that positive cannabis story, and where are they in the landscape?
Yeah, I think some of the challenges still lie more so in the mainstream side of media. The cannabis industry trade publications are always very open to covering new trends, data insights, IP, accepting different op-eds from certain thought leaders. So there's, those gates are wide open. I think most of the hesitation still does come from some of the mainstream business outlets, depending on if an outlet has invested in a cannabis team to cover on the industry or cover specific cannabis beats. Maybe there's one or two people that they have on the team that specifically focus on the industry, then great. But if not, you're going to have to work pretty diligently and creatively to weave around what the existing team covers and trying to insert cannabis in there in a way that's palatable and understandable for them. Because otherwise, if they just see something and your pitch is plastered with the words pot, weed, marijuana, they're just going to look at it and be like, okay, well, I don't cover this. But as long as there's relevance there and you can tie it back to, okay, this is a reporter that's covering public markets, especially emerging markets. Let's try to bridge the gap there and make this pitch understandable for them and make it seem like a no-brainer for them to cover it because it's right up their wheelhouse.
Obviously, you see this growing, but how do you see it growing in terms of the PR side of representing cannabis clients? How do you see this for young and upcoming PR professionals? Is this a growth area for them too?
Yeah, I think this is definitely a great industry to tap into. The industry definitely faces its challenges. So like right now, rescheduling of cannabis from a Schedule 1 to a Schedule 3 drug is on the table. That's a big conversation happening right now. And then we can get into a whole plethora of things, but that also comes with 280E, which is Internal Revenue Code 280E, and that prevents cannabis businesses from deducting certain things against their taxable income. So, I mean, cannabis companies, I think, are facing about somewhere around 70% of taxes on their gross income. So they can't be deducting most expenses that everyday businesses can deduct. I believe one of the only things you can deduct is cost of goods sold. And so they're facing massive challenges there. So I do think for the foreseeable future, it is a little bit of a choppy industry. However, once those hurdles get overcome, I think there's going to be definitely bullish sentiment in the industry and more capital, more resources, more professionals are going to flock to it. So for the meantime, I would say if anybody does want to get involved in the industry, do so, but do so at your own risk. The waters are still choppy, but if you're up for it, if you're passionate about it, it's a great place and a great community to be a part of.
That's terrific. I'm so excited to hear that you're excited about what you're doing. You're obviously have dived in with 2 feet. I guess you jump in with 2 feet, right? You don't dive in with 2 feet, but you get my point.
That works too.
Thank you. And thank you for sharing your knowledge and your expertise with us. Really appreciate it. We are going to segue now, Michael, into the rapid fire question portion of our podcast. This is where we have a little fun. We steal a page from inside the actor studio, ask our guests a series of rapid fire questions meant to elicit a simple answer, maybe a laugh or two. Michael Mejer, with your indulgence, here we go with rapid fire question number 1. What is your favorite news source?
Inc. magazine.
Inc. All right. Do you have is there a cannabis publication that you gravitate to? Is there one that stands out?
Yeah, Cultivated Daily. It's a great newsletter, independent. I believe it's an independent media publication, but they do phenomenal work.
Okay, very cool. Rapid fire question number 2. What's your favorite social media platform?
LinkedIn.
Love it. Love it. Rapid fire question number 3. Coffee or alcohol?
Coffee.
Yeah. All right. How are you taking the coffee?
Double shot of espresso, steamed milk.
There you go. All right. High test. Love that stuff. Rapid fire question number 3. What's your favorite on the run food?
Chipotle.
Oh, I love the Chipotle. There you go. And rapid fire question number 5. What do you want to be after you finish this career?
Fulfilled.
Fulfilled. All right. I love that. I had one person say one time alive.
You know what? That's not a bad answer either. I can't knock him for saying that.
We work hard. Well, Michael, this has been a great conversation. Again, thank you so much. Please let people know how they can find you online.
Yeah, you can head over to greenlanecommunication.com. And then you can also find me on LinkedIn. I'm super active there and very accessible, Michael Mejer. You can just search my full name and you'll find me on there. You could also search for Green Lane Communication and you can follow us and see all the cool stuff we're doing for clients and different coverage we're interacting with and securing for them. So yeah, LinkedIn and the website, definitely the go-to place to stay in touch with us and keep tabs on what we're doing.
Sounds good. We'll put it all in the show notes as well. Michael, thanks again. And thank you everyone for listening. Please remember to subscribe to the show, connect with us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at the PR Podcast, and send us a question or a comment. Our intro is by Christopher Apple. You can find him and his fantastic photography on Instagram at Christopher_APPOLDT. Check him out there and hire him for all your photography needs. You can find me online at Jody Fisher on all the socials and on the web at jodyfisherpr.com. We'll see you next time on the PR Podcast.